The wolf was dying in the snow when the rejected Omega made the biggest mistake of her life. She should have walked away. She had no food, no family, no one left to save her if winter took her too. But when she looked into those golden eyes, she saw something she knew too well. Loneliness, abandonment. So she dragged the giant wolf home. Then another wolf appeared. Then another. Until 11 dying wolves lay inside her tiny cabin. What she did not know was that one of them was the most powerful alpha king in the kingdom. And by saving him, she had just signed her own death sentence. Because before sunrise her cabin would burn. She would disappear. And 5 years later she would return with 2 children carrying the king's eyes and a secret powerful enough to destroy an entire kingdom. The wolf was already dying when Liana found him. Snow fell from the black sky like ashes. The forest had disappeared beneath a blanket of white. Even the trees looked like ghosts. Liana pulled her thin cloak tighter around her shoulders and took another step through the snow. Then she heard it. A weak cry. Not human. An animal. She stopped. The sound came again. Painful. Almost gone. She followed it through the pines until she reached a clearing. And froze. A giant white wolf lay in the snow. Blood stained his fur. One of his legs was twisted at an unnatural angle. A deep wound crossed his side. Ice had formed on his thick coat. The wolf lifted his head. Golden eyes met hers. Ancient eyes. Powerful eyes. Yet there was something else in them. Loneliness. Then his head dropped back into the snow. Liana slowly knelt beside him. Her fingers trembled as she touched his fur. Cold. Too cold. He would not survive the night. Then another cry came from the darkness. Liana looked up. A second wolf lay beneath a tree. Then a third. Then a fourth. She slowly turned in a circle. 11 wolves. 11. All injured. All dying. Her breath caught. Who could do this? Who could hurt so many wolves and leave them here to freeze? She looked toward her cabin far away between the trees. She had little food left. Few herbs. A few pieces of firewood. Barely enough for herself. If she saved these wolves, she might not survive the winter. For a long moment she simply stood there. The wind screamed around her. Snow covered her boots. Then she remembered another winter. Another cold night. She remembered standing in the center of her old pack. Everyone staring at her. Everyone laughing. Her mate rejecting her before the entire pack. She remembered begging for mercy. No one had helped her. No one. She looked down at the white wolf again. His breathing had become weaker. Very weak. Liana closed her eyes. Then she sighed. I know what it feels like to be left behind. She wrapped her hands into his thick fur. You are not dying here tonight. The wolf did not move. She pulled. Nothing. She pulled harder. The wolf slid through the snow. Little. She smiled. Good. We can do this. Step by step she dragged him toward the cabin. The journey felt endless. Her arms burned. Her legs shook. Several times she nearly collapsed. But she kept going. When she finally reached her cabin, she opened the door and pulled the giant wolf inside. The room suddenly seemed much smaller. She leaned against the wall and breathed hard. Then she looked back toward the forest. 10 wolves still waited. She could stop. No one would blame her. No one would know. But she turned around and went back. Again. And again. And again. Hours passed. The moon climbed higher. Her hands became red and swollen. By the time she carried the last wolf inside, she could barely stand. 11 wolves filled her tiny home. Some lay beside the fire. Some near the table. One slept beside the door. The giant white wolf rested near the fireplace. Liana stared at them and laughed softly. You are all much too big. Silence answered her. She began to work. She heated water. Crushed herbs. Cleaned wounds. Wrapped injuries with strips torn from her own blankets. The white wolf had the deepest cuts. She carefully washed the blood from his side. You fought hard. The wolf did not answer. Whatever happened to you must have been terrible. Still silence. She touched his thick fur. You are safe now. For a second his ear moved. Liana blinked, then smiled. So you can hear me. The fire crackled. Outside the storm grew stronger. Inside the cabin there was only warmth. And the strange feeling that she was no longer alone. Midnight came. Then later. Liana fed the fire with her last pieces of wood. She looked at the nearly empty basket and sighed. No firewood tomorrow. She looked at the wolves. No food either. A small laugh escaped her. I suppose we will all starve together. Suddenly the giant white wolf opened his eyes. Golden, bright, watching her. He gasped. You are awake. The wolf did not move. He simply looked at her. There was intelligence in those eyes. Too much intelligence. Almost human. She slowly reached toward him. It is all right. Her fingers touched his fur. The wolf did not pull away. Instead his eyes softened. Liana smiled. You really are beautiful. For some reason the words made the wolf stare at her even harder. She yawned. Exhaustion crashed over her. Her body could not take any more. She sat beside the fireplace. Then slowly leaned against the giant wolf. His fur was warm. Very warm. Much warmer than the blankets. I will rest for only a minute. The wolf remained still. She closed her eyes. Within seconds she was asleep. The giant white wolf looked down at the woman beside him. King Draven Blackthorne could not believe what had happened. An Omega, poor lonely Omega, had saved his life. And the lives of his warriors. Without asking who they were. Without expecting anything. No one had ever done that for him. Not in the palace. Not in the royal court. Not anywhere. The woman shivered in her sleep. Without thinking he shifted slightly closer to her. She sighed and curled against his side. A strange warmth spread through him. Then his wolf stirred. Feeling. Pull. Something ancient. Something powerful. His gaze dropped to her face. Who are you? Outside the cabin a branch snapped. Draven's eyes flashed. Danger. Someone was there. Several people. Watching. Waiting. Far beyond the trees a man in a black cloak stared at the cabin. His face remained hidden. Only his cold smile could be seen. He looked at the little house glowing in the darkness. Then at the sleeping woman inside. Poor Omega. One of his soldiers stepped beside him. My lord. Should we kill her tonight? The man slowly shook his head. No. He smiled. Tomorrow. The soldier looked confused. And the king? The man's eyes became colder than the winter itself. The king will live. His smile widened. But the girl who saved him will burn. Inside the cabin the fire continued to crackle. Liana slept peacefully beside the giant white wolf. She had no idea that death had already found her door. And she certainly did not know that the wolf keeping her warm was not an ordinary wolf at all. He was the Alpha King. And by sunrise everything in her life was about to change forever. Morning arrived quietly. The storm had passed. Golden sunlight slipped through the frosted window and painted the tiny cabin in soft light. Liana opened her eyes. For a moment she forgot where she was. Then she realized her cheek was resting against warm white fur. She sat up quickly. The giant wolf was awake. His golden eyes were fixed on her. She smiled. So you survived. The wolf blinked. You gave me quite a scare last night. He kept staring. Liana laughed softly. You really do listen. A low rumble came from his chest. Not a growl. Almost an answer. She tilted her head. Are you hungry? The wolf slowly lifted his head. She smiled again. I will take that as a yes. She stood and walked to the cupboard. It was nearly empty. Little dried meat. Few vegetables. Nothing more. She sighed. Well, this is unfortunate. She looked over her shoulder. 11 wolves were now awake. 11 pairs of eyes stared at her. The sight nearly made her laugh. You all look ready to eat me. One of the smaller wolves actually lowered his head in embarrassment. Liana blinked. That was strange. Very strange. She began cooking what little food she had left. The smell filled the cabin. The wolves watched her every move. The giant white wolf never looked away. When she placed the bowls on the floor, the wolves waited. None of them touched the food. Liana frowned. What is wrong? The giant wolf glanced at the others. Only then did they begin eating. Liana stared. That was not normal. That was how soldiers behaved around their commander. She slowly looked back at the white wolf. Who are you? The question stayed inside her heart. Hours later, the wolves had regained much of their strength. Some could already stand. The white wolf walked toward the door. Liana's smile faded. You are leaving. He stopped. For a long moment neither of them moved. She suddenly felt sad. Which was foolish. They were wild animals. She had known them for only one night. Yet the cabin already felt different. Less lonely. She stepped closer. You should rest one more day. The wolf looked at her. Then at the forest outside. Duty called him. She somehow understood. Liana sighed. I suppose you have somewhere important to be. The wolf lowered his head slightly. She smiled. Then go. For a second neither of them moved. Then she reached up and touched his thick fur. Take care of yourself. The giant wolf closed his eyes. The touch was gentle, warm. Something deep inside Draven stirred. A feeling he had not known in years. He wanted to tell her who he was. He wanted to ask her name. But danger still surrounded him. Whoever attacked him might return. If they learned about her, she would become a target. He could not allow that. He turned toward the door. Then stopped again. The woman looked so small standing there. So alone. His wolf did not want to leave. Finally he walked outside. The other wolves followed. Liana stood in the doorway watching them. Snow sparkled under the morning sun. The white wolf turned one last time. Their eyes met. Then he disappeared among the trees. The forest became silent. Too silent. Liana slowly closed the door. The cabin suddenly felt empty. She looked at the fireplace. The blankets. At the bowls they had used. A strange ache settled inside her chest. She laughed softly. I have become attached to wolves. She turned to clean the room. Then stopped. Something lay beside the fireplace. Pendant. Silver. Beautiful. She picked it up. At its center was a black stone carved into the shape of a crown. It looked expensive. Far too expensive for an ordinary traveler. She frowned. Did you leave this behind? The pendant felt warm in her hand. She placed it carefully on the table. Perhaps the white wolf would return for it. Outside the forest remained peaceful. But far away another storm was beginning. At the royal camp deep within the mountains, 11 men stood around a fire. They had all shifted back into human form. Every one of them wore black armor. Every one of them looked worried. King Draven stood at the center. Powerful. His black hair moved gently in the wind. One of his warriors stepped forward. Your Majesty, we should return to the palace. Draven remained silent. Another warrior frowned. You are thinking about her. Draven looked toward the distant forest. A small cabin hidden among snow and trees. A silver-haired woman with kind blue eyes. He had known her for less than a day. Yet he could still feel the warmth of her hand. Find out who lives in that forest. The warriors looked surprised. You wish to investigate her. I wish to protect her. No one spoke. The king rarely showed concern for anyone. Draven's gaze hardened. The people who attacked us are still out there. If they discover she helped me, she could be in danger. One warrior bowed his head. It will be done. But none of them noticed a shadow listening from behind the rocks. A servant. Bye. He smiled and quietly slipped away. By sunset he reached a hidden castle. Lord Lucian waited beside the fireplace. The spy knelt. My lord. The king survived. Lucian smiled. I know. The woman who saved him still lives. Silence. Then Lucien slowly lifted his eyes. Tell me everything. The spy obeyed. When he finished, the room became very quiet. Lucien walked toward the window. Snow was beginning to fall again. A lonely Omega in the forest. He smiled. Interesting. My lord, should we eliminate her? Lucien's smile widened. Yes. He looked into the darkness. Tonight. Back at the cabin, Liana finished her evening meal. She felt strangely tired. More tired than usual. Even standing made her dizzy. She touched her forehead. No fever. A sudden wave of sickness rose in her stomach. She covered her mouth. Then hurried outside. Cold air struck her face. She breathed deeply. After a few moments, the sickness passed. She frowned. That had never happened before. Slowly she looked toward the moon. A memory surfaced. A single night months ago. The night of her rejection. The night her former mate had claimed her one last time before throwing her away. Her face became pale. No. Her hands began to shake. No. It cannot be. She ran back inside. Opened a small wooden box. Inside were healing herbs and old medical books. Her trembling fingers searched through the pages. Then stopped. She read the same lines again. And again. The color drained from her face. Her hand slowly moved to her stomach. A tear slipped down her cheek. I am pregnant. At that exact moment, a dark figure appeared outside her cabin. Then another. And another. Torches glowed among the trees. Death had finally arrived. I am pregnant. The words echoed inside Liana's mind. She could barely breathe. Her hand remained on her stomach. Child. Child. A small life was growing inside her. For a moment she forgot the cold. Forgot the loneliness. Forgot the years of pain. A tear rolled down her cheek. She was not alone anymore. Then she heard it. A branch snapping outside. Liana looked toward the window. Another sound followed. A step. Many footsteps. Her heart began to pound. Nobody came to this part of the forest. Never. Slowly she walked to the door and looked through a crack. The blood drained from her face. 6 of them. Dark cloaks. Torches in their hands. They were surrounding the cabin. One of them carried a bow. Another held a sword. Liana stepped back. Who are they? Why are they here? Then she remembered the wolves. The white wolf. The wounds. The attack. Cold fear crept through her body. The men had not come for her. They had come because of the wolves. A voice sounded outside. Search the place. Another voice laughed. If the girl is inside, then this will be easy. Liana's hand flew to her stomach. Her baby. No matter what happened, she had to protect her child. Quickly she grabbed her thick cloak and a small pouch of herbs. Her eyes moved around the cabin. There was only one way out. The back window. Outside, the voices grew closer. Footsteps approached the front door. Liana climbed onto the table. Her hands shook. She pushed the window open. Freezing air rushed inside. The front door suddenly rattled. Someone was trying to force it open. Open this door. The voice was hard and cruel. Liana climbed through the window. Snow reached her knees. She slipped and nearly fell. The door behind her burst open. Men entered the cabin. She is gone. Search outside. Liana ran. Branches hit her face. The cold burned her lungs. She had no idea where she was going. She only knew she had to keep moving. Behind her, voices shouted. There she is. A torch appeared between the trees. Then another. They had seen her. She ran faster. Her feet slipped on the ice. Pain shot through her ankle. Still she kept going. She heard men crashing through the forest behind her. One of them laughed. You cannot escape. Another shouted. Take her alive. Alive. Why alive? What did they want from her? She reached a fallen tree and hid behind it. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. The voices came closer. Too close. A torchlight swept across the snow. Liana held her breath. The man stopped. For one terrible moment she thought he had seen her. Then another voice called him away. He turned and left. Liana remained still. 1 minute. Then another. Finally she stood. A terrible smell reached her. Mo. He turned. Far beyond the trees an orange glow rose into the sky. Her cabin. No. She stumbled forward. No. The glow became brighter. Flames. Her home was burning. She ran toward it. Branches tore at her clothes. Tears filled her eyes. When she reached the clearing she stopped. The cabin was engulfed in fire. The roof had already collapsed. Everything she owned was inside. Her blankets. Her books. Her mother's necklace. Everything. One of the men threw another torch into the flames. The others laughed. Liana covered her mouth to stop a cry. Why were they doing this? A tall man stepped from the shadows. He wore a black cloak. His face remained hidden. The men bowed their heads to him. So he was their leader. He looked at the burning cabin for a long moment. Then he spoke. She is dead. One of the soldiers frowned. We did not find the body. She cannot survive alone in this storm. The man smiled. By morning she will freeze. Liana's eyes widened. They believed she was inside. They thought she was dead. The men turned and disappeared into the darkness. Soon only the fire remained. Liana slowly stepped into the clearing. The heat touched her face. Her home was gone. Everything was gone. She fell to her knees. For a long time she simply stared at the flames. Then she placed both hands over her stomach. You are all I have left. A soft sob escaped her. Snow began to fall again. Big white flakes. Silent, beautiful, and cruel. She could not stay here. If the men returned they would kill her. Slowly she stood. She looked at the burning cabin one last time. Then turned away. The forest swallowed her. Hours passed. The night grew colder. Liana walked without direction. Her legs trembled. Her clothes were wet. She had eaten nothing all day. Several times she nearly collapsed. Still she kept moving. For her child. Only for her child. Far away another man could not sleep. King Draven stood on the balcony of his palace. The moon shone above him. Yet his thoughts remained in the forest. On the strange Omega who had saved him. A sudden feeling struck his chest. Sharp and sudden. His wolf growled. Danger. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Draven turned toward the north. Toward the forest. His face darkened. Prepare my horse. A guard looked confused. Your Majesty. Now. The guard ran. Within minutes Draven was riding through the night. Snow covered the roads. Cold wind whipped against his face. He did not know why he was going. He only knew one thing. The woman was in danger. Dawn was breaking when he reached the clearing. His horse stopped. Draven slowly looked up. The cabin was gone. Only black ashes remained. Smoke still rose into the air. For a long time he could not move. Mo. He jumped from his horse and ran toward the ruins. Everything had burned. Everything. His eyes searched desperately. Then he found it. Piece of blue cloth. Part of the dress she had been wearing. His hand closed around it. The pain inside his chest became unbearable. He had come too late. Again. He had failed to protect someone. A guard approached carefully. My king. Draven did not answer. The fire happened only a few hours ago. Still silence. Then Draven looked at the ashes. His golden eyes became cold. Deadly cold. Find who did this. The guard swallowed. At once, Your Majesty. Draven remained standing among the ruins. Snow slowly covered the ashes. And somewhere far away the woman he could not forget walked alone through the wilderness. Cold. Hungry. Pregnant. And completely unaware that the Alpha King believed she had died in the fire. As the sun rose over the mountains her strength finally gave out. She stumbled once. Then again. At last she collapsed into the snow. Her eyes slowly closed. In the distance she heard something. voices, strangers. Then darkness swallowed everything. Warmth touched her face. It was the first thing Liana felt. Not cold, not snow. Warmth. A soft scent of flowers drifted through the air. She frowned and slowly opened her eyes. A wooden ceiling greeted her. Sunlight poured through a nearby window. For several seconds she simply stared upward. Then memory returned. The burning cabin. The men with torches. The long walk through the snow. Her hand flew to her stomach. She sat up so quickly that pain shot through her body. A gentle voice spoke beside her. "Easy, child. You are safe." Liana turned. An old woman sat near the bed. Her hair was silver and her eyes were kind. She wore a dark blue robe embroidered with strange symbols. "You collapsed in the mountains 3 days ago." 3 days. Liana blinked. "I am alive." The old woman smiled. "Very much alive." Tears suddenly filled Liana's eyes. The old woman reached out and held her hand. "You fought hard to stay here." Liana swallowed. "My baby." The woman nodded softly. "Your child is safe too." A sob escaped Liana's lips. She lowered her head and cried. Not from sadness. Not completely. From relief. Everything had been taken from her. Everything except this one small life. The old woman allowed her to cry. When the tears finally stopped, she handed her a cup of warm tea. "Drink." Liana obeyed. The warmth spread through her body. "Where am I?" The woman smiled. "You are in the Valley of Dawn." Liana frowned. She had heard stories about this place. A hidden land where healers lived. A place almost no one could find. "You are one of the healers." The woman laughed softly. "I am their leader." She placed a hand on her chest. "My name is Mira." Liana lowered her eyes. "I am Liana." "I know." Liana looked surprised. Mira smiled. "You spoke in your sleep." Embarrassment colored Liana's cheeks. The old healer became quiet. Then she asked softly, "Who tried to kill you?" The room fell silent. Liana stared into her cup. "I do not know." "Did you have enemies?" A bitter laugh escaped her. "I was an Omega nobody wanted. I had nothing." Mira watched her carefully. Sometimes the people with nothing become the target of those who fear everything. Liana looked up. "What do you mean?" The old woman only smiled. "We shall discover that later." Days passed. Then weeks. Winter slowly faded. Spring arrived. Liana remained in the valley. The healers welcomed her. For the first time in years she felt safe. Every morning she learned about herbs, healing, ancient remedies, things she had never imagined. She discovered she had a gift. Her hands seemed to understand sickness. Her instincts guided her. Even Mira looked surprised. "You learn quickly." Liana smiled. "I like helping people." The old healer nodded. "I can see that." One evening they sat beside a river. The water reflected the setting sun. Mira looked at her carefully. "You carry more than one heartbeat." Liana blinked. "What?" The old woman touched her stomach. "Twins." Silence. Liana stared at her. Then her eyes widened. "Twins." Mira smiled. "Yes." For a long moment Liana could not speak. Then she laughed. Then cried. Then laughed again. "Twins. 2 little lives. 2 children." Her hand rested gently on her stomach. "You hear that?" She smiled through her tears. "There are 2 of you." The wind moved softly through the trees. For the first time since losing her home she felt hope. Real hope. Months passed. Her belly grew. The valley became her new home. The healers became her family. Yet at night she still dreamed of the white wolf. Golden eyes. Warm fur. Strange sadness. She never understood why she remembered him so clearly. Far away in the royal kingdom another person could not forget. King Draven still kept the piece of blue cloth from the burned cabin. 5 months had passed. 5 long months. He had searched every village, every road, every mountain. Nothing. No body. No answers. Only ashes. One evening his closest warrior approached him. "My king." Draven did not look away from the fire. "What is it?" "You should let her go." Silence. The warrior sighed. "You did not even know her name." Draven finally looked up. "I know." "Then why can you not forget her?" Draven had no answer. Because when he closed his eyes he saw her smile. Because he remembered her gentle hands. Because for one brief night she had made him feel something he had not felt in years. But he said none of that. Instead he simply looked into the flames. The warrior bowed and quietly left. Draven remained alone. Completely alone. Back in the Valley of Dawn summer arrived. The day finally came. Liana woke before sunrise with pain. Sharp pain. Then another. Mira looked at her and smiled. "It is time." Hours passed. The pain grew stronger. Sweat covered her face. She gripped the blankets. Another wave came. She cried out. The healers surrounded her. "You are doing well. Just breathe." Then suddenly a tiny cry filled the room. "Baby. Little boy." Tears rolled down Liana's cheeks. But another pain came immediately. Mira smiled. "Do not stop now. One more." Minutes later another cry echoed through the room. "Little girl." Silence followed. Then both babies began crying together. Liana laughed through her tears. The healers placed the children into her arms. The boy had dark hair. The girl had silver hair. Both had golden eyes. Myra's expression changed. She looked at the children carefully. Then at Liana. Golden eyes. Royal eyes. A secret remained hidden inside those tiny faces. Liana never noticed. She was too busy staring at her children. "They are beautiful." The little girl opened her eyes. Then the boy. Liana kissed their foreheads. "You are my whole world now." The setting sun painted the room in gold. A new life had begun. But destiny was already moving once again. 5 years passed like flowing water. The little cabin in the valley became filled with laughter. Rowan ran through the grass with a wooden sword. Ilara sat beside the river collecting flowers. Liana stood outside her home wearing elegant blue healer robes. She was no longer the frightened Omega who had escaped through the snow. She had become strong. Respected. Then one morning a rider arrived. He carried a royal seal. Mira read the letter and became quiet. "What is it?" The old woman handed her the invitation. Liana's heart nearly stopped. The royal palace requests the presence of all great healers for the engagement ceremony of King Draven Blackthorne. The name hit her like lightning. Raven. The giant white wolf. The man she had never forgotten. The children looked up at her. "Mother, what is wrong?" Liana slowly lifted her eyes toward the distant mountains. 5 years. 5 years since the fire. 5 years since she disappeared from the world. And now destiny was calling her back. She had no idea that her return was about to change the kingdom forever. The kingdom looked exactly as she remembered. And completely different. Tall stone walls rose before her. Colorful banners danced in the wind. Merchants filled the streets. Children laughed as they chased one another through the market. Liana sat inside the carriage and stared through the window. 5 years. 5 long years. She had dreamed about this place many times. Sometimes with anger. Sometimes with fear. Sometimes with longing. Now she was finally here. Yet her heart would not stop beating. Beside her sat Rowan and Ilara. The twins pressed their faces against the window. "So many people," Rowan whispered. "And look at the flowers," Ilara said softly. Liana smiled. Everything was new to them. The world beyond the valley. The great kingdom. Palace. Mira sat across from them. She studied Liana's face carefully. "You can still turn back." Liana looked at her. "No. Are you sure?" Liana nodded. "I spent 5 years hiding. I will not hide anymore." Mira smiled softly. The frightened Omega who had arrived in the valley no longer existed. This woman was different. Strong. Unbreakable. The carriage entered the city. People immediately noticed the elegant blue robes of the healers. They stepped aside. Some even bowed. Rowan looked amazed. "Mother, they are bowing to you." Liana laughed softly. "They are greeting all of us." The boy smiled proudly anyway. The carriage finally stopped before the palace gates. Liana's breath caught. The palace looked enormous. White stone towers reached toward the sky. Fountains sparkled in the sunlight. Golden banners hung from every wall. Memories suddenly rushed back. The white wolf, golden eyes, warm fur, strange sadness. She pushed the memories away. 5 years had passed. He was a king. She was an Omega healer. Their paths should never have crossed. A palace servant opened the carriage door. "Welcome, honored healers." They stepped outside. The twins looked everywhere at once. Everything fascinated them. The gardens, the soldiers, the fountains. A group of noble women passed nearby. One of them smiled at the children. "They are beautiful." Liana thanked her politely. Then another voice reached her ears. "The king and Princess Celine will announce their engagement tonight." The words struck her like cold water. Engagement. For some reason her chest tightened. She hated herself for it. What did she expect? A king could not remain alone forever. He probably had forgotten the strange Omega from the forest long ago. She lowered her eyes. Mira watched her quietly. But she said nothing. Inside, the palace servants led the healers toward the grand hall. The room was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers glowed above them. Music drifted softly through the air. Nobles filled every corner. Then the doors at the far end opened. Silence swept through the hall. King Draven Blackthorne entered. Liana forgot how to breathe. He looked different. Older. Stronger. More powerful. His black hair fell to his shoulders. Dark royal clothing covered his broad frame. But his eyes remained the same. Golden. Ancient. The same eyes that had looked at her beside the fire. The same eyes that had watched her in the cabin. For one impossible moment she forgot where she was. Draven walked beside a beautiful woman wearing a red gown. Princess Celine. She smiled at the nobles. But Draven looked tired. Very tired. As though a piece of him remained somewhere else. The king suddenly stopped. His eyes lifted. Straight toward her. Time seemed to stop. The music faded. The voices disappeared. Only those golden eyes remained. Draven stared at her. The color slowly left his face. Impossible. The woman standing near the entrance had silver hair and blue eyes. She wore healer robes. She looked older. Stronger. But it was her. The woman from the cabin. The woman who had died. The woman he had searched for. The woman from his dreams. His heart slammed against his ribs. Oh, this could not be real. For 5 years he had believed she was dead. Yet she stood only a few steps away. Alive. Breathing. Beautiful. Liana saw shock in his eyes. Then confusion. Then something deeper. Something dangerous. She lowered her gaze. The hall suddenly felt too small. Too warm. She wanted to leave. But she could not move. Draven took one step forward. Then another. Princess Celine frowned. "My king." He did not answer. His eyes never left Liana. The entire hall noticed. Whispers spread among the nobles. Who was this woman? Why was the king staring at her? Liana's heart pounded. She had imagined this moment many times. But never like this. Never before hundreds of people. Draven finally reached her. For several seconds he simply looked at her. As if afraid she would disappear again. "You are alive." His voice was barely a whisper. Liana slowly lifted her eyes. "Yes." One word. Yet it changed everything. Draven swallowed hard. "I thought you died." Silence stretched between them. "I almost did." Pain flashed through his face. A pain she did not understand. Before he could speak again, a small voice interrupted. "Mother." Rowan stepped beside her. Then Ilara. Both children looked curiously at the king. Draven looked down, and his world stopped again. Golden eyes. 2 pairs of golden eyes. The same color as his own. His breath caught. The little boy stared at him boldly. The little girl tilted her head. The hall became silent once more. Even Princess Celine looked confused. Draven slowly knelt. His eyes remained fixed on the children. A strange feeling gripped his heart. Pull. Ancient. Powerful. Impossible. The little girl suddenly smiled. Hello. Draven almost forgot to answer. Hello. Rowan stepped closer. Are you the king? A few nobles laughed softly. Draven nodded. Yes. The boy studied him seriously. Then he smiled. You look lonely. Silence. The words struck deeper than any sword. Draven stared at the child. How could a little boy see something no one else noticed? Liana gently touched Rowan's shoulder. That is enough. The boy stepped back. But Draven could not stop looking at him. Or at the girl. Or at their eyes. His eyes. A cold feeling suddenly crawled through him. Oh, impossible. Could not be. Could it? Across the hall, Princess Celine watched everything. Her smile slowly disappeared. She had never seen the king look at anyone this way. Never. And when she looked at the children, a strange fear touched her heart. Then another person noticed. Lord Lucian. He stood near a pillar holding a glass of wine. His face remained calm. But inside he felt ice. The woman from the forest was alive. And she had children. Golden-eyed children. He slowly set down his glass. The dead had returned. And with her return came danger. Terrible danger. Draven finally lifted his eyes toward Liana. His voice became very quiet. Who are these children? Liana's heart nearly stopped. She looked into his golden eyes. Then at her twins. The answer stood between them. Hidden. Waiting. And for the first time in 5 years she realized that her secrets might not remain hidden much longer. Who are these children? The question hung in the air. Liana felt her heartbeat in her throat. For one terrible moment she thought the entire hall could hear it. Rowan looked up at her. Ilara slipped her small hand into hers. Draven remained kneeling before them. His golden eyes searched her face as though he could read every secret hidden inside her heart. Liana forced herself to breathe. They are my children. The answer was true. But not complete. Draven slowly stood. I can see that. There was something in his voice now. Curiosity. Confusion. Something deeper. His eyes returned to the twins. The boy looked almost fearless. The girl looked calm and gentle. Yet both carried the same impossible golden eyes. Eyes he saw every morning when he looked into a mirror. Princess Celine stepped forward with a graceful smile. My king, the guests are waiting. Her voice broke the strange silence. Draven did not move. Celine's smile became tighter. You promised an announcement. Finally he looked at her. For the first time that evening Liana noticed how tired he looked. Not unhappy. Not angry. Simply tired. As if he had been carrying a heavy burden for years. Draven nodded slowly. You are right. He turned back toward Liana. We will speak again. The words sounded almost like a promise. Then he walked away. Princess Celine followed him, but not before sending Liana a long cold look. The twins watched the king climb the marble steps. Rowan tugged gently on his mother's sleeve. He seems nice. Liana almost laughed. Nice was not the word people used for kings. He is very important. The boy frowned. He still looks lonely. Lara nodded. I think so too. Liana looked at her daughter in surprise. Children notice things adults often missed. The royal announcement began. Music filled the hall. Servants carried silver trays. Then Draven stood before everyone. The room became quiet. Princess Celine moved beside him and smiled proudly. My friends and honored guests. Draven's voice echoed through the great hall. Tonight I thank you all for gathering here. Applause followed. Liana stood in the back and listened. This kingdom has known peace for many years. More applause. Then silence. Draven looked across the crowd. For one brief second his gaze found her again. Then he continued. It is also time to secure the future of the crown. Princess Celine's smile widened. Liana looked away. She suddenly wished she had never come. We announce our engagement. The hall erupted with cheers. Nobles clapped. Musicians began to play. Princess Celine looked radiant. Only Draven seemed untouched by the celebration. Liana lowered her eyes. A strange ache settled in her chest. Should not hurt. She had no right to feel this way. She barely knew him. Yet memories returned. Snowy night. Golden eyes. Warm fur beside a fire. She pushed the thoughts away. Mira stepped beside her. You look pale. I am fine. You are not. Liana smiled sadly. It does not matter. Mira followed her gaze toward the king. Perhaps it matters more than you think. Before Liana could answer, a servant approached. Lady Liana. His Majesty requests your presence. Her breath caught. The servant bowed. Immediately. Mira squeezed her hand gently. Go. Liana nodded. She followed the servant through long corridors and quiet gardens. Finally they reached a library. The servant opened the door. The king is waiting. She stepped inside. The door closed behind her. The room was warm. Books lined every wall. Moonlight spilled through tall windows. Draven stood beside the fireplace. He turned when he heard her. For several moments neither of them spoke. Then he said quietly, I searched for you. Liana blinked. What? For 5 years. Silence. I thought you died in that fire. The pain in his voice was real. She could hear it. I found only ashes. She swallowed hard. I never meant to disappear. Draven nodded slowly. I know. Silence settled between them again. Then his eyes darkened. Who burned your home? She looked away. I do not know. You must have seen something. Only shadows. He clenched his jaw. I failed you. The word startled her. You did not even know me. I knew enough. He looked into the fire. You saved my life. He finally met her eyes again. And I could not save yours. Something moved inside her chest. A feeling she did not understand. She quickly changed the subject. You never told me who you were. A faint smile touched his lips. I suppose I forgot to mention I was king. She almost smiled too. Almost. Then his expression became serious. The children. Her heart skipped. What about them? He stepped closer. They have my eyes. Silence. The room suddenly felt smaller. Many people have golden eyes. Not like theirs. Liana's fingers tightened. Draven watched her carefully. There is something you are not telling me. Before she could answer, the door burst open. A guard rushed inside. My king. Draven turned sharply. What happened? The guard looked shaken. There is trouble in the courtyard. They hurried outside. People had gathered near the fountain. Voices filled the night. Then Liana saw Rowan. Her heart nearly stopped. Her son stood in the center of the crowd. 3 older boys surrounded him. One noble child lay on the ground crying. What happened? Ilara ran toward her. They called us beggars. Liana knelt beside her. And then, they pushed me. The little girl's eyes filled with tears. Rowan became angry. Everyone looked at the boy. One of the noble women shouted, Your son attacked my child. Rowan looked furious. He pushed my sister. The crying boy stood. He is lying. No, I am not. The argument grew louder. Suddenly the crying child lunged toward Ilara again. Something happened. A powerful gust of wind exploded from Rowan. The boy flew backward and landed in the fountain. Gasps filled the courtyard. Silence followed. Every face turned toward Rowan. The little boy looked shocked. I did not touch him. Draven stared. Only members of the royal bloodline possessed that ability. Only the Blackthorne family. The world seemed to stop. Slowly he looked at Rowan. Then at Liana. Then back to the boy. The truth stood before him. Impossible. Yet undeniable. Across the courtyard Lord Lucian watched from the shadows. Fear gripped his heart. The children carried royal power. Everything he had feared was becoming real. He turned toward one of his men. His voice became cold. Take the children. The soldier looked surprised. My lord. Tonight. Lucian's eyes darkened. Before the king learns the truth. The palace had finally grown quiet. Music had faded. The guests had returned to their rooms. Moonlight covered the gardens in silver. Liana sat beside the window of her chamber and watched her children sleep. Rowan lay on his back with one arm over his head. Ilara slept curled beneath her blanket. They looked peaceful. Too peaceful. Her hand trembled as she touched Rowan's hair. The wind in the courtyard. The impossible power. She had feared this day for 5 years. The children were growing. Their powers were awakening. And now the king had seen it. A soft knock sounded at the door. Liana quickly stood. Mira entered. You should rest. I cannot. The old healer sat beside her. You think he knows. Liana looked toward the sleeping twins. I think he suspects. Mira became quiet. Will you tell him? Liana closed her eyes. I do not know. You cannot hide the truth forever. A bitter smile touched her lips. I hid it for 5 years. Mira gently took her hand. You did not hide because you were cruel. You hid because you were afraid. Liana's eyes filled with pain. They tried to kill me. The words came out in a whisper. They burned my home. Her voice shook. If they discover the children are his, then they will come for them too. Mira said nothing. Because she knew Liana was right. At that same moment King Draven stood alone in his private chamber. A fire burned beside him. Yet he felt cold. Very cold. His thoughts kept returning to the little boy. The burst of wind. The golden eyes. The strange pull he felt whenever the twins were near. He poured himself a drink. Then another. Neither helped. Knock came. Enter. His captain stepped inside. Your Majesty. Draven looked up. I want every record of the fire from 5 years ago. The captain frowned. In the middle of the night. Now. The captain bowed and quickly left. Draven stared into the flames. A memory returned. The night in the cabin. The silver glow around Liana's wrist. The strange feeling inside his wolf. He had ignored it. Buried it. Told himself he imagined it. Now he was no longer certain. A sudden feeling struck his chest. Danger. His wolf growled. Draven stood. The feeling became stronger. A knock came again. This time the captain looked alarmed. My king. What is it? The healer children are gone. The room went silent. Draven's face changed. What did you say? They disappeared from their chamber only moments ago. The glass in Draven's hand shattered. He was already moving. The palace erupted into chaos. Guards ran through corridors. Torches lit the gardens. Liana stood in the middle of her room, unable to breathe. The beds were empty. The window was open. Snow drifted through the curtains. No. Her voice broke. No. She ran to the beds. The blankets were cold. Her children were gone. A sob escaped her. Then she heard footsteps. Draven entered. Their eyes met. For one terrible moment neither of them spoke. Then Liana grabbed his arm. Find them. Tears filled her eyes. Please. Draven had seen fear before. He had seen people beg. But nothing had ever sounded like this. Please. Not for herself. For her children. His expression hardened. I will bring them back. Then he turned and shouted orders. Within minutes horses thundered through the palace gates. Snow covered the roads. The moon hid behind dark clouds. Draven rode at the front. His wolf was restless, angry. Something deep inside him screamed that the children were in danger. An old hunting path led into the forest. Fresh tracks marked the snow. 3 horses. 2 small bodies. The kidnappers had not gone far. They reached an abandoned hunting lodge before dawn. A faint light glowed inside. Draven raised his hand. The soldiers stopped. Then he heard it. Child crying. Lara. His blood turned to ice. He did not wait. The front door exploded inward. The kidnappers turned in shock. Steel flashed. The fight was fast. Brutal. 1 man fell. Then another. 3rd tried to escape. Draven caught him by the throat. Who sent you? The man remained silent. Draven's eyes glowed. Who? The man trembled. Then he whispered. Lord Lucian. Silence. The world seemed to stop. Lucian. His own cousin. A scream came from another room. Draven ran. He found Rowan standing in front of Ilara. The little boy held a piece of broken wood like a sword. His face was pale. But he did not move. He was protecting his sister. Draven froze. The boy looked so small, yet so brave. Stay away. His little voice shook. Draven slowly knelt. It is all right. Rowan stared at him. I came to take you home. The boy blinked. Then his face crumpled. He dropped the stick. Draven opened his arms without thinking. And the child ran into them. Everything changed. The moment Rowan wrapped his little arms around his neck, something broke inside him. A warmth spread through his chest. A feeling so powerful it stole his breath. The word echoed inside him. Not possession. Not pride. Something deeper. Something ancient. His son. Draven slowly closed his eyes. He knew. He knew with absolute certainty. The little boy in his arms was his child. Ilara walked toward him and touched his sleeve. Can we go home now? Tears burned behind his eyes. The girl had no idea what that word meant to him. He lifted her into his other arm. Yes. His voice was rough. We are going home. Sunrise painted the sky when they returned to the palace. Liana stood at the entrance. The moment she saw the children, she ran. She dropped to her knees and pulled them into her arms. The twins clung to her. All 3 of them cried. Draven stood a few steps away and watched. His chest hurt. Because he suddenly understood what had been stolen from him. 5 years. 5 years of birthdays. 5 years of laughter. 5 years of hearing little voices call for their mother. 5 years of being a father. Gone. Liana slowly looked up. Their eyes met. Draven's face had changed. The cold king was gone. Only a wounded man remained. He stepped toward her. The morning sun touched his face. Then he spoke the words she had feared for 5 years. They are mine. Not a question. Truth. Silence filled the courtyard. Liana closed her eyes. There was no point denying it anymore. When she opened them again, tears shone there. Yes. The single word shattered his world. King Draven Blackthorne had found the woman he thought was dead. And with her he had discovered something even more impossible. He already had a family. And someone had tried to destroy it. The courtyard remained silent. The first rays of sunlight touched the palace walls. Liana still held her children in her arms. Draven stood before them like a man struck by lightning. They are mine. The words had changed everything. No one moved. No one spoke. Then Rowan looked up. His little face was full of confusion. Mother. Liana gently touched his cheek. Yes, my love. The boy looked at Draven. Is he my father? The question pierced the silence like an arrow. Liana closed her eyes. There was no more hiding. No more running. No more lies. She looked at her son. Yes. The boy blinked. Then he looked at Draven again. The king seemed unable to breathe. Ilara slowly stepped toward him. So you are the lonely king. A soft laugh escaped one of the guards. Then silence returned. Draven stared at the little girl. Something inside him broke completely. He slowly knelt before the twins. For the first time in many years his eyes shone with tears. "I did not know." His voice trembled. "I swear to you both. If I had known I would have come for you." The children looked at him quietly. Then Rowan asked the question that frightened him the most. "Why were you not with us?" Draven's heart twisted. "'Cause I failed. Because I arrived too late. Because I did not protect your mother." But how could he explain such things to a child? Liana finally stood. "This is not the place." She looked exhausted. The long night had taken all her strength. Draven slowly nodded. He rose to his feet. "There is something you must tell me." Her eyes met his. "I know." A few hours later they sat inside the royal library. The twins slept together on a couch near the fire. Mira remained with them. Only Liana and Draven stood by the window. Snow drifted outside. The world seemed strangely peaceful. Liana told him everything. The pregnancy. The men with torches. The burning cabin. The long walk through the snow. The valley. The birth of the twins. She hid nothing. Draven listened without speaking. Every word cut deeper. When she finished the room became silent. At last he whispered, "You suffered all of that alone." A tear slipped down her cheek. "I had no choice." He looked away. Shame filled him. He was the most powerful alpha in the kingdom. Yet the woman who had saved him had almost died carrying his children. He remembered the ruins of the cabin. The ashes. The piece of blue cloth. For 5 years he had mourned her. And all that time she had been alive. Raising their children. Alone. "I failed you." His voice was barely audible. Liana looked at him. "You did not know." "I should have." A painful silence followed. Then the doors suddenly opened. A soldier rushed inside. "My king." Draven turned sharply. "What happened?" The soldier bowed. "We found one of the kidnappers alive." Minutes later they entered the prison chamber. The man lay on the floor bruised and terrified. The moment he saw Draven he began shaking. Draven stepped forward. "Who ordered the attack on the children?" The man swallowed hard. "Lord Lucian." Liana stiffened. Draven's eyes darkened. "And 5 years ago." The prisoner closed his eyes. "It was also Lord Lucian." Silence. Liana felt the room spin. The same man. The same monster. He had destroyed her home. He had hunted her. He had tried to steal her children. Draven's voice became cold. "Why?" The prisoner looked terrified. "Because of the heirs." Silence again. "He knew if you had children they would inherit the throne." The man's body trembled. "He wanted the crown." Draven's hands slowly closed into fists. Years of suspicion suddenly became clear. The ambush. The fire. The kidnapping. Everything. A voice came from the doorway. "Then perhaps you should ask why he wanted the throne so badly." Princess Celine stepped inside. She looked pale. Afraid. Draven frowned. "What are you doing here?" She took a deep breath. "I know something." Liana looked at her carefully. Celine's eyes were full of tears. "For years I believed Lucian loved me." Silence. "He promised that I would become queen." Her voice shook. "I helped him." The words struck like thunder. Draven stared at her. "You what?" "I told him where you were going 5 years ago." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "I thought he only wanted to delay your return to the palace." The room became deathly quiet. Liana's face turned white. Celine covered her mouth. "I did not know he planned to kill anyone." Draven looked at her as though seeing a stranger. "You betrayed me." She nodded through her tears. "Yes." A long silence followed. Then Draven turned away. The pain in his eyes was worse than anger. Celine began crying. "I am sorry." But no one answered. At that exact moment the palace bells began ringing. Once. Again and again. A soldier burst into the chamber. My king! He was out of breath. What is it? The man looked terrified. Lord Lucian has taken control of the western gate. Draven's eyes narrowed. How many men? Thousands. Silence. The soldier swallowed. He has declared himself the rightful ruler. Liana felt cold. Coup. War had come to the palace. Another soldier rushed inside. My king! What now? He demands your surrender. Draven's expression became hard as stone. And if I refuse? The man looked toward the floor. He says he will kill every member of your bloodline. The room fell silent. Every member. That included Rowan. That included Ilara. Draven slowly looked toward the library. Toward the room where his children slept. For 5 years he had not known they existed. Now someone threatened to take them away. Never. His golden eyes began to glow. A dangerous power filled the room. The soldiers stepped back. Liana had never seen him like this. Not as a wolf. Not as a king. But as a father. Draven turned toward her. I will end this today. She saw something new in his face. Not duty. Not revenge. Love. A fierce and terrifying love. Outside the palace another horn sounded. Then another. The kingdom stood on the edge of war. And in the middle of it all Lord Lucian smiled from the palace gates. Because he carried one final secret. A secret so terrible that it could destroy the Alpha King forever. The palace gates trembled. Thousands of soldiers stood outside. Banners carrying the Blackthorne crest waved in the cold wind. But they no longer belonged to the king. They belonged to Lucian. The man sat proudly on a black horse at the front of his army. A cruel smile rested on his face. The morning sky had turned dark with storm clouds. It felt as though the kingdom itself was holding its breath. Inside the palace Draven fastened his armor. His dark cloak hung over his shoulders. His golden eyes burned with fury. Liana watched him in silence. For a moment he looked less like a man and more like a force of nature. He turned toward her. You should stay inside. She folded her arms. No. His expression hardened. It is dangerous. She stepped closer. So was the fire that almost killed me. Silence. So was the night your children were stolen. Draven's jaw tightened. I will not hide anymore. He looked at her for a long time. Then slowly nodded. The frightened Omega from 5 years ago was gone. This woman was a survivor. A mother. A warrior in her own way. A soft voice interrupted them. Father. Draven froze. He turned. Rowan stood in the doorway. For a second nobody moved. The little boy looked uncertain. Then he repeated the word. Father. Something inside Draven melted. He knelt. The boy ran into his arms. Draven held him tightly, as though he never wanted to let go. Ilara walked over and wrapped her small arms around them both. Liana felt tears sting her eyes. Family. Real family. And it had almost been destroyed before it even began. Draven kissed the tops of their heads. I will come back. Rowan looked worried. You promise. I promise. The boy nodded. Children believed promises. Adults knew how easily they could break. Outside a horn sounded. Time had come. The palace gates opened. Draven walked out with his soldiers. Liana stood beside him. The twins remained on the steps with Mira. Cold wind swept through the courtyard. Lucian smiled when he saw them. You finally brought your family. Draven's face became hard. You tried to kill my children. Lucian laughed softly. I tried to protect the kingdom. The kingdom from children. The kingdom from you. Silence. Lucian slowly dismounted his horse. You were always weak. His voice echoed across the courtyard. You cared too much. Draven said nothing. You trusted too easily. Still silence. Then Lucian smiled. Just like your parents. Something changed in Draven's face. The entire courtyard became quiet. What did you say? Lucian took another step forward. I said you are just like your parents. A strange darkness entered his eyes. I should know. Silence. Because I killed them. The world stopped. Even the wind seemed to die. Draven stared at him. No one moved. No one breathed. Then Lucian laughed. Terrible sound. Did you really believe your parents died from illness? The king's face had gone pale. No. Oh yes. Lucian smiled. I poisoned them. Liana covered her mouth. The soldiers looked horrified. Lucian spread his arms. The throne was supposed to be mine. His voice grew louder. But your father became king. Hatred burned in his eyes. I waited years. Draven's hands slowly became fists. I watched. His breathing deepened. I planned. Golden light began to glow around him. And then I killed them. The power around Draven exploded. The ground cracked beneath his feet. Several soldiers stepped back in fear. Lucian smiled. There he is. The sky suddenly thundered. Draven shifted. Bones cracked. Light burst around him. A massive black wolf appeared. Larger than any wolf in the kingdom. His golden eyes blazed like fire. Lucian shifted to a gray wolf. Large. But nowhere near the size of the king. The battle began. They collided with a force that shook the courtyard. Soldiers scattered. The wolves tore across the stone. Lucian attacked again and again. But Draven's rage made him unstoppable. Then something happened. Another group of soldiers appeared behind the palace. They had slipped inside during the battle. One of them grabbed a bow. He aimed at the palace steps. Rowan. Liana saw it. Her heart stopped. No. Arrow flew. Everything happened at once. Lara screamed. Rowan froze. Liana ran. But she was too far away. Then a burst of wind exploded from the steps. The arrow changed direction and struck a wall. Everyone stared. Rowan stood with glowing golden eyes. His small hands were raised. Silence filled the courtyard. The little boy had saved himself. And his sister. Draven looked toward his son. Pride filled his eyes. Then Lucian attacked from behind. His claws struck the king's side. Blood stained the stone. Liana screamed. The black wolf stumbled. Lucian prepared to strike again. Suddenly another glow appeared. Soft and silver. Ilara stepped forward. Light flowed from her small hands. The wound on Draven's side began to heal. The entire courtyard stared in disbelief. The twins carried ancient gifts. The power of the royal bloodline. Draven rose again. This time nothing could stop him. He lunged. The black wolf crashed into Lucian. The gray wolf fell hard. Draven's jaws closed around his throat. The battle ended. Lucian shifted back into human form. Blood covered his clothes. He looked up and laughed weakly. You won. Draven shifted back. His face was cold. You destroyed my family. Lucian smiled. And now you have won again. He coughed. But remember this. His voice became softer. Love always gives your enemies something to take. Then his eyes closed forever. Silence followed. The war was over. The soldiers slowly dropped their weapons. One by one they knelt before the king. Draven looked toward the palace. Liana stood there with the twins. Sunlight finally broke through the clouds. He walked toward them. Slowly. As though afraid this was another dream. Rowan ran first. Then Ilara. Draven caught both children in his arms. Liana stepped closer. For a long moment they simply looked at one another. Then Draven reached for her hand. I spent 5 years mourning you. Tears filled her eyes. I spent 5 years surviving. He nodded slowly. I cannot change the past. No. But I would spend the rest of my life making it right. Silence. Then Liana smiled. Small smile. But real. And that was enough. Draven pulled her into his arms. The twins hugged them both. The palace erupted with cheers. At last the kingdom had its true family, its true future, its true queen. And under the warm light of the rising sun, the Alpha King realized something precious. The greatest treasure he had ever found was not a throne, not a crown, not power. It was the lonely Omega who had once carried a dying wolf through the snow and saved his life.